So this is going to be a short little cast. It's just me in my car on my break at work. And it's October 5th, 2019. And I wanted to talk about something. So I have a catalog of recordings, of audio recordings, large enough that it affected like the purchase of this phone. I bought it with 256 gigs because of all this, all these audio recordings that I like to keep handy. And basically it is a timeline, a catalog of doctor's appointments that I recorded, which I was pretty diligent about. I recorded most of our doctor appointments with Rachel. And every so often I go through them. And, you know, I'm fighting this, it hasn't even been 2 years. It was a year in April. And I'm fighting this kind of like backlash from people that think that I shouldn't, when I talk about this, they think, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't be going through those recordings. Like, you know, knowing Rachel, I don't think she'd want me to suffer or be in pain or dwell or harp on her too much. If it was causing me any anguish or causing me, mostly she wouldn't want me to be stagnant. If it was causing me to be stagnant in my life and not move forward and do good things with my life. But I think the main thing is she'd also not want to be forgotten. And I think it's a nice sentiment to know that there's somebody who's willing to sit and listen to those recordings, especially things that they've sat through. You know, when you're very close to somebody and they pass and you have these recordings of them and pictures and videos, it's not always, you would think that person would cherish those things, which I do, and which you do. But if you're very close to somebody, sitting and listening to them talk after they passed is hard, number one, and number two, you're so familiar with their voice. I haven't yet felt like I really need to be reminded of what she sounds like. I have had days like that where I need to hear her voice, and I'll scroll through and pick something. But the way I go through these doctor appointments is because I'm really trying to tell her story, which I have yet to do, because every time I turn this thing on, I end up talking about myself. And it's very hard, it's very tempting not to do that. And the reason for that is because I usually just turn it on a whim. And the times that I have had a format and thought about it before I flipped a switch, those are the podcasts that I'm proud of, the few that I'm proud of here. But the attempt is to tell her story from her point of view, and to tell, originally I thought I have this story of this very heroic story of strength and grace and beauty and holiness and finding peace and everything. And I told myself, that is the story, but I want to tell the true story. And if there is a story to be told that underneath all that, then I want to tell it. But the more that I go over these things and catalog, and I go over our doctor's appointments, looking for the underlying story, which there is an underlying story with Rachel. And there is a lot of pain in her life, and there was a tragic thing that happened. And it was too soon, and it was sad, and there is no way around that. But when I go over these appointments and I listen to her voice, that heroic tale that I have in my head is just fortified because it's just so remarkable listening to her. Last night I listened to a recording that was recorded on March 8th, 2018. A month and 3 days later, Rachel died. So April 11th, she died. So I'm listening to this recording, and it's with Dr. Sheldon, and he is a palliative specialist. Now, she had been seeing a palliative care doctor all along, but really missed the mark. Like, in order to really, like, improve Rachel's quality of life, which is basically what palliative is, it's pain management and quality of life management. And none of the doctors that she spoke to really connected with her. They didn't understand that the time to talk to her was not right before chemo. And they'd always show up right before or during chemo when, I mean, who wants to talk during, right before they're about to be infused, something that's really like traumatic? Or while they're being infused, they don't have much to say, no energy. They really just she just wanted to focus on getting through it and being comfortable. And in order to improve someone's quality of life, you need to kind of talk to somebody who's there to tell you in detail what's going on and what could be improved. And, you know, for the patient, that can be really hard to do, to find a time when you're lucid enough to be analytical about your own care. So, but this Dr. Sheldon came into the hospital, into the ICU, as her palliative care doctor, and it was his first time coming in and meeting with her. And I think he's the head of the palliative treatment at Worcester UMass Memorial Hospital. And it was one of the best visits we'd had. And I'm listening to these doctors talk, and throughout the conversations, I hear things that the doctor maybe shouldn't have said, or looking back, the doctor was wrong a lot of the time. Sometimes they were right, and we weren't as responsive because we didn't want to hear what they had to say. But I listened to two last night. I listened to Dr. Sheldon, this palliative care specialist, who was, his bedside manner was fantastic. But the point is, it was a month and 3 days before Rachel died, and you wouldn't believe how strong she sounded and how sure she was that she was going to survive, even at that point. And I listened to the back and forth, and I listened to Dr. Sheldon, his reaction, and Rachel was so sure about it, and she sounded so strong. And she even said during the recording, she said, "I'm motivated." She was joking around. She was like, "I'm motivated. I'm feeling good." You know, she was slowly dying at that point. It was, even he was thrown off by this, and you could hear it. And I remember talking to him a few days later, and him saying, you know, even she can make you feel like things maybe are brighter than they are, but he didn't want to send her home with hospice. And I knew in my head she couldn't come home without epic level care, and the only kind of care you can get that's anywhere near ICU care is with hospice. We've tried bridge to hospice, and he was recommending bridge to hospice. And I know a lot of this is about money and budget in the hospital, but he was recommending bridge to hospice. She died a month and 3 days later. This is in the ICU, so just unbelievable, her will, determination at that point. And I listened to one that was March 7th, the day before, with Dr. Smirnos. And he was another fantastic doctor. And that's the recording when he posed the question to her. You have two choices. You can either choose maximum longevity of life, to live as long as you possibly can and hang on, or you can choose maximum comfort, which is basically accepting that you're dying, and you just, the goal is either to be comfortable and while that's happening, or to maximize the longevity of your life. And of course, it's resounding, she chose longevity. So that was my struggle in the end there, when they wanted to stop her feeding and everything. I don't think Rachel decided it was time to go until it was time to go. You know, a few days beforehand, 3 or 4 days beforehand. When they unhooked her TPN, she fell asleep for about 48 hours. And I think when she woke up, she realized what was going on. And I remember I whispered in her ear a few days before she died. I said, listen, don't worry. I know they're all, whatever anybody's saying, I'm going to keep you alive. I'm going to do my best to keep you alive. And she looked at me and gave me a look like, no more fighting. Let's just go. Let's just go with this. She kept saying, is it time, And she was waiting for me to hold her and usher her into death. God. There's a couple times I didn't know that. She said it a few times before I realized what she was asking for. Even the night before she died, I said, is it time for what? You want to go to the hospital? You want to go? Where do you want to go? And she didn't want to go anywhere. She pulled me on the bed. She just wanted to, is it time to die, Jed? Let's do this, If there's any times I wish I could have really been in her head, it's during the times that she fell asleep. Those 48-hour-long stints where she was sleeping, really sleeping. And she never looked like she was peacefully sleeping. She always had her head hanging down and looked painful. And I wish I could have been in there with her. Because I think for sure before you die, when you're that close, I wonder what your dreams are like. I think you're coming to terms with what's happening. And I just want to know, I just would love to know if she felt any fear or loneliness during those times, and I hope that she didn't. I don't know. I don't believe in magic, but if I do get to see her when all this is over, it will have been worth it. That's it. I gotta go back to work. Just a little update. I'm trying to move forward. I really am, but I keep circling back to her. There's something unfinished. There's just something, and it may be just that my life's not in a good place and I have nothing to look forward to or to focus on that I really care about. But it does feel like there's something that's unfinished, and it involves her. So I don't know.